लब्बैक या हबीब मन लब्बैक सैयदी लब्बैक या इमामना लब्बैक मुर्शदी लब्बैक मुर्शदी लब्बैक मुर्शदी.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our Khilafat Day 2022 series. In this episode, we'll be discussing how the guidance of Khilafat has helped shape the future careers of Waqf-e-Nau around the world. To share their experiences and personal career paths with us, we have with us today Abdul Fateh Ahmed, who is serving as structural engineer in the Merkaz Architects and Engineers Department. And joining us from the USA, we have Ghalib Khan, who is serving as head of MTA International USA Studios. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to you both.
Wa
alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Ghalib, firstly starting with you, I mean both of you have been lucky enough to have held and been part of classes with Hazrat Khilafat al-Masih from a very young age. Ghalib, if I can start with you, how have these classes helped shape who you are today?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakallah Mubarak Sahab. Yes, it's a very important question, and we're so lucky to have the guidance of Hazrat Khilafat al-Masih from a young age. I personally remember attending the children's classes in the Fazl Mosque with Hazrat Khilafat al-Masih IV, Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him. And it was just such an amazing experience. I remember the excitement before Hazur would come into the hall and all the children were there. We learned so many important religious lessons. But to be honest, I learned so many other just practical lessons as well, and good etiquettes that Hazur used to tell us, how to receive a gift from your right hand, or if someone else receives something to say Barakallahu alaikum. And small things like, I remember once Hazur would say that, if you're yawning, make sure you cover your mouth with a yawn. So at a young age, if you're 7, 8 years old, these are the things that stick with you. And then as you get older, you understand the importance and role of Khilafat a bit more. And then it's you feel a bit more privileged to be in that presence of, the representative of God Almighty here on earth. So it takes on a different role the older you get. But I just feel so fortunate for all of the Khuddam and Atfal at that age who are a part of those classes. Just to be in Huzur's presence for just an hour, it really is an amazing experience.
Absolutely. And Fateh Sahab, have you got any experiences you could share with us as well?
Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullah. Yeah, by the grace of Allah, I was amongst those who were fortunate to attend classes of Hazrat Khilafat al-Masih. And these classes were an immense source of influence. First of all, being in the presence of Khilafat al-Masih is the utmost honor. But on top of that, Hazur was testing our general knowledge, our religious knowledge, arithmetic, and even literature, all the while guiding us on how to fulfill our waqf in so many different ways. And with this guidance and exposure to such broad discussions, Hazur encouraged us to pursue various different fields of expertise, such as engineering, teaching, and journalism, etc. However, the most important lesson learned, I would say, was probably the importance and power of prayer. All the while encouraging us to pursue these fields, Hazur instilled in us to always remember God and to seek His help in our pursuits. One of my favorite takeaways, and I'd say my favorite class would probably be when we studied the book Our God by Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad Rahmatullah alayh. Growing up in the UK, I think this was a very important for me growing up in the Western environments, and I would definitely encourage this book to other Waqf-e-Nau and the youth.
And you touched on it there. So, beloved Hazur, obviously, as your Waqf-e-Nau guided your career paths and your education choices, could you kind of relay some of those guidance that Hazur has given you?
Yeah, so where it says in the Holy Quran, hold fast altogether to the rope of Allah and be not divided, that rope of Allah is Khilafat. And the most important thing for any Waqf-e-Nau who's dedicating their life to the service of God is remembering this fact that you need to hold on to that rope of Allah. In my opinion, one of the first steps and key things for one to do is to build that relationship with Hazur, and the simplest and easiest way to do that is to write regularly to him. So bearing this in mind, this is what I would do continuously from a young age throughout my education, from subject choices to what degree to pursue topic or thesis, and then following on from that, what specialties do it, what expertise to specialize in.
And same question to you, Ghalib Sab. So what kind of guidance did Hazur give you specifically for your education and then your career?
Gee, I got inspiration from the system of Khilafat from a very young age. When Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi started the Waqf-e-Nau scheme, if you listen to those early sermons, Hazur kept emphasizing that Waqf-e-Nau should go into every important field of education, research, and professions, and excel at them as well. And I remember when I was younger, my parents used to really emphasize that to me, that whichever field you go into, you should try to be the very best. And so when I was around 14 or 15, that's when my interest first started developing in media work. I used to help out at a kind of the Khuddam level in terms of Isha, taking pictures at local events or designing posters. And that's when I got guidance and permission to continue this and study multimedia at university. And that, even then, that wasn't directly guided towards MTA, because the course I did was a general overview of many different aspects of media. So we did some web design and 3D animation and video filming and things like that on the filming side and the editing. And once I completed my studies, that's when I wrote to Hazur Anwar again to request permission of what to do next. And that's when Hazur directly said that I should start working in MTA. So even when I started as a Waqf, even after then, Hazur gave specific guidance and instructions. I was able to present some things directly to Hazur Anwar and to get his direct feedback as well. So, from Waqf Zindagi's perspective, that's an amazing honor to have. And when I speak to any other Waqf-e-Nau, I always remind them at every stage of your education to reach out to Hazur Anwar and make sure that he is informed of the options that you have and take Hazur's guidance in which step to take next in your education.
And alhamdulillah, Hazur is an inspiration for so many people all around the world. But how has Hazur been inspiration for you? Not in terms of maybe just your career, but in terms of as in your everyday life. How has Hazur, interacting with Hazur, inspired you?
I think from a young age, to be perfectly honest, it's something that we take for granted. Living in the UK, living in London, around the Fazl Mosque area, we had such easy access to Khalifatul Masih that obviously going to Friday prayers was special, but in that environment, you take it for granted. You don't realize, especially as a young person, that Hazur Anwar is a global leader for global community. And for me personally, I remember very clearly in 2008, I went to one of the Jalsa Salanas in Kababir in the Middle East. And I had a chance to speak to some local Khuddam there. One Khadim, he was able to speak English. I spoke to him and he asked me one question which really struck me. It stayed with me since then. He just said, "Have you ever seen Amir al-Mu'mineen?" And no one had ever asked me that question before because I'd always grown up around Khilafat, alhamdulillah. And that really struck me. I thought, this is something I really take for granted, that I can go and pray behind Hazur and get inspiration from him, from his Friday sermons, from his classes. And when I came back from that trip, I told myself that, I'm not going to take this for granted. I'm going to try and learn as much from Hazur as possible and try to instill those qualities that he mentions in my own personal life as well. So since then, one thing I've always been inspired about is how much Hazur has to take on all the burdens of the world. People write to him with his, people write to him for prayers, any difficulties they're going for, requesting prayers for their jobs, their education. And Hazur Anwar has to deal with all of that, but he still keeps a smile on his face and he still keeps performing all of his duties day in, day out. And particularly if you think around the time of Jalsa Salana, it's such a busy schedule, and all of us working in the MTA team, we're exhausted. But we're all the people involved in the MTA team, we're so tired. But literally the day after Jalsa, Hazur Anwar is still working. He's still in his office having special mulaqats and meeting dignitaries from around the world. And it almost seems as if he never takes a break. And for me personally, that's a huge inspiration. Obviously, Hazur Anwar has special help from Allah the Almighty. But I think if all Waqfin are able to try and instill some of that spirit in their daily schedules as well, that will only be of our benefit.
Absolutely. And Fatih, same question to you. So how has Ansur inspired you in any way?
Well, Hazur has inspired me in every possible way. But the key thing is, from my experience, is that whatever guidance that Hazur gives, the blessings are always in that approach. So you might not comprehend it or fully understand it at first, but if you follow that guidance to the letter, then whatever problems you have, they'll get resolved. Whatever solution is required, it will get found, and whatever task you're working on, they'll get successfully completed.
So Jazakallah Fatih. So unfortunately, there may be some Waqf-e-Nau who don't have that closer connection to Khilafat, as obviously both of you are lucky enough to have. Do you have any kind of advice for them, or explain maybe the benefits of that connection?
So as I mentioned, having a close connection with Hazur is very important if you're dedicating your life to the service of God. Some of the methods we've already alluded to, for example, writing to Hazur regularly. This is one key aspect of building a connection with Hazur. And to take a step further to that, one could always keep a diary as well, which is a great management tool. And in fact, Hazur has advocated this, keeping a diary to increase one's productivity. Other ways of building a relationship with Khilafat could be listening to the Friday sermons regularly, offering prayers behind Hazur if you have that facility, and these things will help you get closer to God, and ultimately, as alluded to in the verse, which I mentioned earlier, ultimately you can get closer to God as well.
And the same question to you, Ghalib Saab. So as a Waqf-e-Nau especially, how important, how vital is it to have that connection with Khalifatul Masih Ayyadullah Ta'ala ibn Aziz in their day-to-day lives?
Gee, that connection is essential. That's essentially what makes Ahmadi Muslims who they are. I think the institution of Khilafat is so unique to the Jama'at. It's given us so many successes across the decades. If you look at the history of the Jama'at, I mean, on a personal level, we don't look at Khalifatul Masih as just an ordinary leader or even just a religious leader, but the institution of Khilafat is actually mentioned specifically in the Holy Quran. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ prophesied that after Khilafat ala minhaj nubuwwat, there would be a period of successes, and then afterwards, again in the latter days, Khilafat will be re-established on the precepts of prophethood. And the entire Muslim Ummah is waiting for that. And we're so lucky and so fortunate that that prophecy has been fulfilled in the institution of Khilafat. And I'm so lucky that when I've been able to go around the world with for MTA projects, I've been able to interact with Ahmadi Muslims in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, in North America. And anytime when I speak to people about Khilafat, their face just lights up. And it seems that everyone around the world has a personal connection with just this one man. And how is that possible? It's a really unique thing that we have. And I feel it's everyone's duty to hold fast to that rope of Allah and make the most of that connection. Don't take this for granted. Just building on that, when there are opportunities to meet Huzuri Anwar, to write letters, like Fatih mentioned, don't take that lightly. Some people I know write regular letters to Huzuri, even every day during Ramadan. There were some people here in America who were writing letters every day to Huzuri Anwar just to increase their spirituality. So don't feel that you're ever putting an extra burden on Khalifatul Masih. This is for our benefit, I feel. So we should make that first step to try and make the most of this opportunity. This is for our benefit. It's a unique treasure that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed on Jama'at Ahmadiyya. And without that strong connection, your spirituality is lacking, and your connection with Allah Ta'ala just doesn't reach that highest level that it could do.
So, and one final question to both of you, actually. Has there been any benefits of that connection you've had with beloved Hazur, any like personal incidents you could relay that might be inspiring for other Waqf-e-Nau who are watching? First to Fatisa.
Yeah, so one such faith inspiring incident which I always keep dear to me is probably the time closer to the time when I was finishing my degree. So I was fortunate to have a mulaqat with Hazur, and I reported to Hazur that my degree is finishing, and I reaffirmed my commitment to Waqf, and I sought Hazur's guidance on what to do next. And Hazur instructed me that, okay, you're now to get some experience in a appropriate firm, and just try and make efforts to get a job. So when I heard this, inside I was really worried, because that was a time when unemployment was high. I could see from my colleagues, they were struggling to find jobs, who were probably better in their education than I was. I had attempted a few job applications unsuccessfully, but I don't know, maybe Hazur saw this worry on my face, and the one thing that he said straight away after that, don't worry, you'll get a job. And I remember the first application that I did after that mulaqat passed to the interview stage. The interview stage, I was successful and I was offered the job. So I didn't waste any time. I wrote back to Hazur, sought permission to accept the job offer, which Hazur graciously granted. And that was really faith inspiring for me, because I had to go through a process where I wasn't really comfortable with. I didn't have, but it was because of those words that Hazur said, that don't worry, you'll get a job. That was the only reason why I found any success.
I'm sure there's many people who can relate to similar instances as well.
Yeah.
Same to you, Ghalib Sab. So is there anything inspiring you could relate to us as well?
Gee, mashallah, is a really inspiring incident just there from Fatih Sab. And that's something I've heard from many different people, that Hazur's guidance has always helped them in their worldly career. I think one thing personal to me, as you are aware, at the moment I'm currently posted in the USA. And when I first came here, I was here for a period of about 3 months on my own. I was away from my wife and my kids, my family, my friends. And especially I was really missing just being close to Hazur. When I used to watch the Friday sermons, that was something, because I always used to be there and being able to listen to them directly, and suddenly I'm in another country, in another continent. So over those 3 months, it was challenging to do the work that I'd been asked to do, and there was a lot of hurdles and obstacles. And when I came back to the UK after 3 months, it was the time of the Jalsa Salana in the UK, and I was just really missing Hazur. And I remember I got there just before Jalsa Salana. We were doing the inauguration, and Hazur Anwar was going around Hadiqatul Mahdi, and he came into the MTA area. And I remember we had teams from all around the world, and everyone was standing outside in a line, and Hazur was still about 30-40 meters away and looked around. But he looked at me and caught my eye, and Hazur just suddenly turned to Munir Sahib and said, "Oh, has Ghalib come back from USA?" And just that one sentence just removed all of my anguish, and I was missing Hazur so much. And just the fact that Hazur remembered me, remembered my name, that was more than I could ever imagine, because it's the inauguration for the Jalsa. Hazur had just met thousands of people, and that one sentence from Hazur Anwar just completely changed my whole feelings at that time. And I was able to quickly go and just meet Hazur's blessed. I was able to walk up and meet Hazur and shake his blessed hand. And for me, that just one incident, it was just a matter of seconds, but it had a profound effect on me. And that's something that I've noticed with other people as well. There was one time in Germany, our team was there at the Jalsa Salana, and we were bidding farewell to Hazur before our MTA team traveled back to the UK. And Hazur met a colleague who was standing next to me. And even though on that day Hazur had done many different mulaqats, he had met so many people, he had performed many nikah ceremonies as well just at that time. But when he met this person, he suddenly remembered that his father was visiting Germany at that time, and the two had not spent much time together. And Hazur just stopped and said, "Your father is here, why don't you spend some time with him?" And that gentleman said, "Hazur, I haven't asked for permission to stay for a few days." And Hazur said, "No, it's important you spend some time with your family before you leave." So that happened, and I just thought to myself, what did I just witness? Hazur had so much on his mind. He's just finished the Jalsa Salana Germany. Just on that day, he had group mulaqats. But when he met someone, somehow he remembered who he is and the fact that his father was there and the emotions that person must have been feeling at that time. And that really struck me. I don't know how Hazurian was able to do that without Allah Ta'ala's special help. So these are the small personal incidents that you notice and you're able to experience that really, really stick with you and provide inspiration.
Jazakallah, that's really inspiring. And on that note, I'd like to say Jazakallah to both of you, both gentlemen. Jazakallah for that inspiring stories and incidents that you've had throughout your life and the guidance that beloved Hazur has given you throughout that period. And I hope, especially for our Waqf-e-Nau viewers, that has been beneficial as well, and hope that you've learned something and taken something away from it as well. Jazakallah to everyone else as well, behind the scenes, and all our viewers. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum.